Welcome to Women's Empowerment Summit 2020. We are thrilled to have you here and so excited to share the wisdom, the talent, the expertise of so many amazing women. So thank you for joining us. And for our first presenter, we have Catherine Salamanca. She will be talking to frame of mind and the importance of mental health. Catherine, aka Pink Cloud 9, is an entertainment artist, actress, radio talk show host, author, podcaster, and comedian. She shares her story of mental health and substance abuse recovery. It has been 3 years since her recovery, and she continues to passionately share insight and advice on how to cope with mental health issues and address substance abuse to be a healthy you. Let's give a big welcome to Catherine Salamanca.
Welcome to the Women's Empowerment 2020 Virtual Summit. This is day 1 of 10 days to follow, and our first guest is Catherine. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here and be part of this summit. Thank you.
So, Catherine, we are talking around confidence, right? That's the big thing here. And we took the F word out of confidence, and we're asking each one of the speakers to talk on what their F word is that gave them the confidence to get where they are today. And you're going to be talking about the power of the mind, right?
Yes.
Which is mental health. So, what is your favorite F word around that mental health that's moving you into that confidence level?
My F word is fire.
Fire. Oh my gosh, I just got chills when you said that. Okay, fire up, everyone, and listen in. Go for it. Go for it. This whole fire thing. So, what was your diagnosis when it comes to the mental health and how fire played that role in that diagnosis and where it went?
Right. Thank you. So in 2007, I was diagnosed with bipolar 1, borderline personality disorder, which is known as BPD, ADHD, which is attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, anxiety, and PTSD, which is post-traumatic stress disorder or syndrome. And so I thought to myself, well, I probably am just a little different, a little unique. But as time went on, I've just got into more and more trouble with the law and with
Oops.
authority. And I had a lot of fire in me. But it also took a lot of fire to finally come into recovery with sobriety and with pharmaceuticals and counseling and psychiatry 3 years ago.
So your journey actually started 3 years ago then in the movement where you are now?
Yes, that is correct.
Great. So how long have you been diagnosed before you really got into making that change?
Yeah, so I was diagnosed in 2007 and I didn't come into recovery till 2017. So it was about 10 years of kind of just wandering around and just not having any direction and drinking and doing a lot of drugs and going into institutions and hospitalizations for many mental breakdowns. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so I'm sure the audience out here can relate to, a lot of that or little bits and pieces. You got me going back into my past, it's like, I had some of those feelings as well. So how do you cope with this diagnosis? And sometimes I think that cope word can be challenging, so how has it impacted your life with this diagnosis and then the steps that you took to finally, what was that big aha moment to say, okay, it's been 10 years of hell. I need to do something different. So can you kind of share that with the audience?
Yeah, absolutely. My lowest point was getting arrested and spending some jail time. It,
Sometimes that can do it, yeah,
that'll do, jail,
right?
a good or fun or, safe place. I was always worried that I was going to get shanked, attacked, killed inside the jail.
Oh,
So
wow.
very scary. So when I got out, well, the judge actually gave me an option. Basically, it wasn't like spelled out this way, but in the general sense, he was like, you can either do 10 years of prison time, or you can do inpatient or outpatient rehab for your drug and alcohol use. What do you want to do? Type of.
So you
And
had a choice.
I did have a choice. It was the first time I got into serious law trouble, so I think I was kind of like spared a little bit in that sense, because usually when someone goes into jail, say 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 times, by the 10th time, it's like, well, you know what? Look, there is just no more excuses and no more chances, and that's just. But it was really the first time I got into like law trouble, and so they were a little bit more lenient, but
Right.
I didn't want to get to a point where I wanted to be jailed 3 or 4 times and then have no choice.
So that fear kind of creeped up there and said, this isn't real comfortable. I don't think I want to come back here. Maybe I should take this other choice, right?
Exactly. So this other choice of recovery rehab was given to me, and I took it.
Oh,
Hmm.
good for you. That can be a hard decision to make because again, it's going that inward and really starting to listen to yourself and what's going on. And it's like, I'm sure you probably at that same time, that time you sat there by yourself in jail, began to think about, is this where I really want to spend my life? What do I really want out of life? And start doing a little soul searching at the same time, which made your decision maybe a little bit easier.
Absolutely. It's very lonely and cold, and you can't trust anybody. And they tell you when to take a shower, when to eat, and it's very scary. For those that have never spent any time in jail, it's really quite, they treat you like animals. Hmm.
Oh, well, that's enough to keep me away from there. All right. Do you have any support network? And if so, kind of share with the audience as to how that network actually made a difference in your life and maybe even built up more confidence and trust in yourself and how that it has impacted your life in this whole little journey that you're on.
Yes, absolutely. So the first support person that I have is my husband. We've been married for over 13 years, and he supports me emotionally, mentally, and financially. And I need a caretaker in my life because of my diagnosis. It's hard for me to keep a job. It's hard for me to, I get in fights with people at work.
Not,
It's just
not a good thing, huh?
interpersonal relationship skills. But so my husband's my number one supporter. And then when I got out of the jail situation and then into recovery, I started a 12-step program, and I got a lot of support there. And then I also am involved with different mental health resource alliances. So,
Oh,
like
okay.
me and DVSA, so they're really great.
That's awesome, and I've got to say kudos off to you, that it's just amazing to have the courage and the confidence to just say, hey, I really want to make a difference in my life. And that support, it doesn't matter where you are in life or what's going on, to have that support. And one thing that just really stood out in the comment you were just sharing here was your husband was supporting you and he was there emotionally for you. Do you know how many women out there are looking for a man that can actually be there emotionally?
Mhm.
Wow. Count your blessings there, young lady. You got to charm her. You got to keep her 13 years, and that's really awesome. And I'm sure he's, he's great in all other avenues, and that's beautiful. That's beautiful to hear, because support is so necessary in every aspect of life, and to be there emotionally for someone as well as physically or financially, any of the other ways. The emotional aspect, I think, is key, number one, as I do work a lot with people who have a lot of emotional baggage, and that's one of the biggest lack that I hear on a consistent basis, is that they don't have a partner or a family member that can support them emotionally. So that's very great to hear. The audience that's listening out there, comment here below, give your kudos to this little chick. Congratulate her. She's really on a tough journey, and she's moving through it. She's building her confidence level. She's getting out here. And just to be here on the show with us today to share her story, to know that, hey, you're not alone. And there really is someone out there, and you can find that someone to support you. And there's groups and organizations, and there's so much more available today. Keep looking. Don't give up, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
What would you say let's see, what would you like to say to those that have a similar diagnosis as yours? Because I'm sure there's a lot of listeners out here, if they're not impacted themselves, they probably know someone that is, because this is something that's finally getting out into the mainstream, and it's being talked about. It's not being hid, and you're not being locked up and chained up, and oh my gosh, some of the things that they did years ago, that's just not right. So could you answer that question and let us know what advice you would give the listeners today?
Yes, of course. So, education and prevention are really important. Uh, you want to get to a point where you ask for help, and
Mm-hmm.
you're asking for help. And what I understand is that a lot of mothers are very scared to ask for help, because they're scared that if they ask for help, that their children are going to be taken away, or that they're going to be watched, or that they're going to.
Yes.
And so the case is actually that if you don't seek help, you will most likely get into a position where you will have to be one day hospitalized, or worse, incarcerated, because you never sought help. And so your diagnosis got worse and worse, because it eats at the brain. So
Mm-hmm.
older we get, the more time that passes, the more stress, the more anxieties, the more overwhelming feelings of coping with life, taking care of others and yourself. All of those things, they'll impact, and at some point, the mind will just not be able to handle it anymore. And so I've gone through situations where I've had mental breakdowns, and I've had to go to the hospital and be institutionalized and incarcerated because I didn't seek help. But it was after I got help, that everything started to fall into place, and my life became happy, joyous, and free.
Oh, that's beautiful. And it's so true what you said, especially mothers, with children, and they're thinking, because, you read these stories, you see what's happening on the news, and you think, I'm not a bad mom, and I don't want my children taken away from me. And if I seek help saying, I've got some issues here, that fear is very, very real. And then, of course, that probably just kind of escalates the situation, right? And it makes it worse, and then you beat yourself up over that. So now you're beating yourself for this, and you're beating yourself up for that, and it just kind of snowballs. So I see where that would go. So that's great advice, is asking. And I think really for the majority of people out there, and I can speak for myself, asking for help is probably one of the hardest things that you can do. You can ask for help for your children, your people. It's easy to ask for help for others, but when it comes to yourself, it's like, whoa, how do I ask for, it's like, oh my gosh, what's this admitting? I'm broken, I'm bad, I'm wrong, all those crazy thoughts, so we all have them. That's part of that human element. But again, we're looking at that confidence, and we're looking at courage, that's going to lift you up. Just really grab hold of what that is in you and move past that fear. Get that little fire, as you put it, boiling inside of you, and go out there and ask. Do a little research. Who should you ask for first? What are the steps you should maybe go to first, right?
Yeah.
And it's not always the best thing to do is go talk to your best friend, because sometimes that you kind of get mixed feelings and mixed advice, so really soul search within yourself. Would that be, some,
Talk to a doctor if you don't have a primary care physician. Then what you can do is a lot of states, not every state, but a lot of states have state funded mental health alliance resource or agency. So that's one thing you might want to look into, like maybe call the United Way at the 211 phone number.
oh, okay. Right.
And then that way they'll be able to give you the local resources for mental health help.
Oh, that is great, great information. Thank you for sharing that, because again, when you're in that situation, or if you know someone that's in that situation, I wouldn't know who to call. So you just dial 211 and get and now you're working with the professionals, the experts that can at least give you opportunities of which direction to go, that you can weigh the odds on, oh, you know what, I think that's the one I really need to check out first. So thank you for sharing that, Catherine. So do you take medications? And if so, how has that made a difference in your life with the things that you were challenged with?
Absolutely. I've been on medication for years now, since 2017. And I take 4 medications. One is an antipsychotic, another is a mood stabilizer, another one is for anxiety, and another one is for ADHD. And so they all work together to keep me, sane, or at least not so abnormal, or, whatever, just kind of like in sync with the rotations and the cycles of the day and the night, and just kind of like keep me at bay. Because what happens is, in the last 3 years, I've gone a few times with forgetting to take medication. And so I'll go for like 3 or 4 or 5 days, and I'll become a different person, personality wise, mood wise. I'll be more aggressive, and I'll be rude and mean and unkind and hateful, and all these traits start coming out. And so my husband and my friends and my family will say, hey, Catherine, have you been taking your medication, in the last couple of days? And then I'll go look, and then I'll be like, oh yeah, it looks like I haven't been taking days. And then like, okay, this is why I've been acting so, like,
Out of control, so to speak, huh?
so to speak. Yeah.
So it's sounding like the medications are like bringing you back into alignment to where now you can move with the flow and function, right?
Yeah,
Okay.
absolutely. Absolutely more be able to be more function better, and also be more in alignment with life. It's just all the time. It's very overwhelming, and so I think that I innately just act out in a negative pattern when I'm
Right.
not on medication, and so yeah. So
Okay, great. Have you or do you receive any type of counseling?
absolutely. So I see a psychiatrist every 6 weeks, and because of COVID, we've been doing it on Zoom, and also on the phone. And I go to the clinic and pick up my medication drive-through style because of
Okay.
COVID. But I've been with this facility for over 3 years. So and so I see a psychiatrist every 6 weeks, and then I see a counselor once a month. When I first started the program, it was once a week, but now I only see a counselor once a month. And then
Okay.
if I ever need any more, I can. But usually I'm okay. I'm just kind of like really chill now. Like, I just relax, take it easy, just don't fret, just let my husband take over the pressures of paying
Day-to-day
bills,
living. There you go.
all that
Right.
day laundry and grocery shopping. I'm like, oh God, that's too much. Okay.
Send him my way.
Right? I don't know.
Oh, the shopping. It's like, oh man, I gotta go shopping again. Are you kidding me? Oh, I would love to have somebody go do my shopping. So, when with these counseling sessions, and especially like what the things that are going on here today, because we're not allowed to go into the facilities and things. Have you noticed a difference, or is it still as productive talking with your counselors or with your psychiatrist through the Zoom or through a phone conversation? Is it still the results driven that you got when you were seeing them face to face?
I mean, yes and no. It's a must,
Right.
and it does help in the sense that, well, it doesn't help because I'm human, so of course I'm going to want human contact, and so there's that part. That's really the only part. But the other part is there's still contact of like me being able to discuss my fears, my irrationalities, my worries, my anxieties, my thoughts, and so the counselor will help me process and give me coping skills like mindfulness, meditation, even taking a warm bubble bath, drinking some chamomile tea. Those things help coping wise, and then processing it helps. So even if it's on Zoom or on a phone call, I'm still talking.
Right.
I'm still being listened to. I'm still being supported.
Okay, well, that's great because sometimes you just don't know the difference is, what's going to happen here, right? So that's great to hear that. Thank you for sharing. And another question is, how do you cope with this or deal with this financially?
Sure. So again, my husband, he's the breadwinner of the family, and so he takes care of the financial aspects, and I take care of like cleaning the home and cooking and things like that. So I'm a homemaker. I'm a housewife or whatever you want to call it. But
Sure.
really, that would be it. If it weren't for him, I'd probably have to be on a type of disability. I'd probably have to live with my parents. I'd have to live with somebody, or I'd be under a bridge.
Okay.
I don't know. So that's how I deal with it financially. I do try to do things online. I haven't been able to be completely 100% successful. I've found a few ways of making a few like gains here and there, but um, nothing that's like I'm not making a
Nothing that substantial.
really quick rich.
Yeah, if you find one of those, let me know, okay?
Because I have a shopping addiction, so that doesn't help. So
I don't think that's any different than any of us. So sometimes we can get on those shopping addictions. So I would say it's like, maybe I should like take this credit card and put it like, through the shredder.
in fact, I'm in the process of filing for disability for my bipolar mental health, and I spoke to one of the facilitators yesterday on the phone to fill out my forms, and I asked if I would be able to give my monthly allowance over to my husband as a conservator.
Okay.
For them to trust me financially.
You know what?
I'm like, oh, that's cute. I don't need it, but oh, that's cute.
Right.
So yeah. So I mean, I have to take these steps, like because I know that I don't make wise decisions all the time.
Well, honey, you're not alone in that one, And again, it's the discipline, and sometimes we can really be disciplined, and then other times we fall off the wagon, so to speak, and whoop, that went out the window, and it's like, oh my God, I just spent $2,000 on this credit card. What the hell was I thinking, right? So you're not alone in that. So don't beat yourself up over it. But this has been great. I have one last question to ask you though. Is how does your family and friends, how has your diagnosis impacted your family prior to your diagnosis, after your diagnosis, and then that little 10-year jaunt that you had to where you are now, with the medications and stuff. Can you kind of bring those little series together for us?
Sure. Well, like I said earlier, I have problems with interpersonal relationships with people. So, as far as my blood family, I'm not very close with them. There's only like one person that I go to for any reason, like to tell her about all of the great things that are happening in my life. But as far as other people in my family, they pretty much have written me off because the reason is because I just did so much damage
Mm-hmm.
during my using and my unmedicated time. So before it was just like, I mean, it's just awful. I was just a really terrible person. Cheat, steal, lie, to get what I want when I wanted it, and so they're still in the process of forgiving me, and you know, is this, because of course in the span of time I have been able to, say, okay, I'm good, and then I fall off the wagon, and then I'm mean again, and then I
Right.
steal again, and then I cheat again, and then I lie again, and then I so it's a cycle. It's up and down and up and up. And even in sobriety, recovery, mental health, pharmaceuticals, medicine, everything, there's still, it's not a cure. Okay, it's a tool, but it's not a cure. The medication, the counseling, the medication, meditation, all of it, they're all, so it's a lifelong disease, just like cancer, just like diabetes. It has to be taken care of. It has to be, you know uh, taken care of, or it gets worse.
So you have to dress it every single day.
That's it. Every, all day long,
Right.
sometimes it's nonstop. So it's a disease, it's a mental disease. And I've come into acceptance of it. But as far as my family is concerned, the only one that stuck around is my husband this whole time, and he knows, he knows my family, and so he knows the transition of like what it used to be like, what happened, and what it's like now. And so even now my family still is just like, so my family are my friends today, and even then, they're like, oh, we don't want to talk, so
Right.
it's very catch and go, and and I don't blame them. It's really all because I'm the one with all of these like social issues. Me.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Well, that's a great way to look at it, and again, you're on this journey and it's going to be a continuous journey, right? We all are on our own individual journeys, and there's similarities, there's differences because we're all unique. And, Catherine, I just want to say thank you so much for sharing this information because it needs to be spoken. And I know it took a lot of fire, there's that F word, a lot of fire to just muster up the confidence and say, I can do this. Yes, I can. I can share my story. I can share the good parts, the not so good parts, and maybe even some ugly parts. And that's a lot because that is, also a part of that healing process, right? Is to be able to be an expression of it because this is you, right? And all of us here are honoring and respecting you and admiring you for stepping up to the plate and share this beautiful story and what you went through to get to here, to be able to be on this show here today, start off our amazing women's empowerment event. So I want to hear from every one of you out there. How did this little girl right here, Catherine, how did she inspire you? How did she empower you? What did you like most about what she said? Where's your little fire? Where's that fire inside of you that's going to push you out there and help you to be courageous and confident and really move into that next level? And if nothing else, like the biggest key that I heard out of everything that you said was ask for help. Don't be afraid. Here we have that fear. Don't have fear. get to the fire and put the fear fire out and ask before it's out of control, right? Yeah.
Yes.
Ask for help. So, thank you again so much for being here and sharing this lovely story. I honor you and I respect you. So, we will possibly see you again on another show, right?
Yes, absolutely. Thank you so much. It's such a pleasure. You're amazing. And I just love working with you and everybody in the whole summit. Everybody's amazing. I love them. Mhm.
So, if you could leave the audience with one more thing, and then how they can connect with you, maybe through social media or something, to maybe be part of that support team for you, would you like to share that?
Of course, yes. I am pretty much, my name is Catherine Salamanca, also known as Pink Cloud Nine, and I am all over Facebook. I'm all over Instagram. I have a podcast. I have a book. I have a blog. I mean,
Wow.
then you're not looking hard enough. But the last thing I want to say to everybody is self-care is important. Love yourself, accept yourself, and forgive yourself, and be kind to yourself as well as other people. Mhm.
Oh, beautiful. Just beautiful. You know, you said that right to the nut, and that's what it's all about, no skirting around. It's like, hey, this is the way it is. So thank you again so much for being on the show and sharing with us. Bye for now.
Right.